Travellers who are flying beyond ASEAN from all local airports, save for KLIA, will be paying a reduced airport tax of 50 ringgit starting October. The Transport Ministry says the Cabinet has agreed to cut the passenger service charge for these passengers at KLIA 2 and other airports across the country to mitigate the departure fee, which ranges from 8 ringgit to 150 ringgit per passenger and is set to kick in this Sunday. Those who have already paid the extra 23 ringgit in PSC for flights departing from October 1st may request for a refund. The PSC will be maintained at 73 ringgit at KLIA, since it is, as the ministry says, a premium airport. Meanwhile, the charge for passengers to destinations within ASEAN remains at 35 ringgit at all airports. Domestic travellers pay 11 ringgit each. These rates will, however, change next year. Aviation regulator Mavcom is working on a framework to determine different PSC rates based on each airport's size, infrastructure and facilities, as opposed to a flat rate for all. The new rates will be announced in the coming weeks. Malaysia Airports reported an 86% surge in second quarter earnings as growth in airport operations boosted its top line. Net profit came in at 160.1 million ringgit, while revenue was some 9% higher at 1.26 billion ringgit. It declared an interim dividend of 5 cents per share. For the first 6 months, however, MAHB saw its net profit falling by nearly 42% to 309.7 million ringgit. This is because the airport's operator had recorded one-off gains in the previous corresponding period. Revenue was up by about 6% to 2.5 billion ringgit. On its prospects, MAHB expects challenges and uncertainties to continue with respect to airlines' performance, competition in the domestic environment, as well as the local and global macroeconomic outlook. Still, it is optimistic on the immediate future outlook for airlines' seat capacity and is positive on meeting its targeted growth for the year. The Naga National says second quarter net profit shrank by nearly 10% to 1.1 billion ringgit due to regulatory adjustments which are now accounted for every month starting from this financial year and the MFRS 16 leases. Revenue was up by about 3% to 12.9 billion ringgit. It declared an interim dividend of 30 cents per share. For the 6 months ended June 30th, TNB's net profit fell by about 20.5% to 2.7 billion ringgit, although revenue was some 5% higher at 26.1 billion ringgit. President and CEO Amir Hamzah Azizan says the utilities giant is beginning to see progress from its turnaround efforts after 5 challenging quarters in the international division, which augurs well for the group. It recorded a positive contribution of 70 million ringgit from its domestic and international investments portfolio versus a loss of 92.9 million ringgit previously. For the full financial year, TNB expects to turn in a stable performance, citing expectations of steady economic growth given the GDP numbers in the second quarter. The KL High Court was told today that ex-Goldman banker Roger Ng and a company controlled by Low Teck Joe's father had outstanding loans with Maybank. The lender has appeared as a third party in the government's asset forfeiture suit against ex-PM Datuk Sri Najib Razak and 17 others. It is claiming funds totaling 1.99 million ringgit under the names of 4 parties in the suit: Roger Ng and his wife Lim Hui Bin, Jho Low's known associate Ki Kok Thiam, and Rembulan Kembara, whose registered shareholder is Low Senior Tan Sri Larry Low. The funds are meant to set off hire purchase accounts and loan accounts under the 4 individuals. Sime Darby Plantation plans to sell its land in Liberia by the end of the year under the group's asset monetization strategy, under which sale proceeds will be used to cut borrowings. Group MD Mohammad Helmi Othman Basha says the group's Liberian unit, which has a land bank of more than 10,000 hectares there, has been continuously loss-making over the years. It is in talks with 3 parties on the planned sale. Earlier today, Sime Darby Plantation reported its latest set of financials to Bursa Malaysia. Second quarter net profit came in at 27 million ringgit on revenue of 2.9 billion ringgit. This was after the group's upstream oil palm plantations registered losses due to lower CPO prices. For the first half, earnings stood at 101 million ringgit on revenue of 5.9 billion ringgit. Going forward, Sime Darby Plantation intends to increase revenue contribution from the downstream sector to help ease the impact of weak CPO prices on the group's upstream operations.